Guadalajara, Mexico. March 2025. The main lab at the Institute of Astronomy is drowning in a heavy, suffocating silence. 12 world-class scientists are huddled around a single monitor, their breath hitched in their chests. The data is cold, hard, and undeniable. The anomaly detected in the deep space object, known as Atlas, is a mirror image of what a child drew 3 months ago long, before any telescope on Earth even knew it was there. "It's impossible," whispers Dr. Sarah Miller, the head of the observatory. Her hands are visibly shaking as she holds a crinkled piece of paper, a drawing made by a 4-year-old. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back to the day everything changed. Leo is 4 years and 2 months old. He lives with his mother, Emma, in a modest little house in the suburbs. Leo doesn't go to any elite schools. He doesn't even have a tablet or internet access. His world consists of plastic cars and toy dinosaurs. He was, by all accounts, a completely normal little boy until the morning of December 15th, 2024. Emma walked into Leo's room to wake him up for breakfast, but she found him already on the floor, surrounded by piles of paper. He was drawing with a terrifying level of focus. He wasn't using his colorful crayons. He was using a sharp black pencil. His strokes weren't messy or playful. They were precise, almost mechanical. "Honey, why are you up so early?" Emma asked. Leo didn't look up. He just kept sketching. When Emma leaned over to see what he was doing, her heart stopped for a beat. This wasn't a child's doodle. It was a complex diagram, interlocking circles, straight lines, numbers, and symbols that looked like high-level equations. In the center was an object that resembled a comet, but with something dark and jagged erupting from its core. "What is this, Leo?" Leo finally looked up. His eyes were glassy, filled with tears he couldn't explain. "It's the one that's coming," he whispered. "It has something bad inside. The people in the sky. They're scared." A chill ran down Emma's spine. Leo never talked like that. She picked up the paper carefully. In the corner, there were words written in a steady hand, words no 4-year-old should know. Atlas, element 9872, danger. And the most haunting art? A note saying it was coming to find something, and we had to help. But this was just the beginning of a mystery that would shatter everything we thought we knew about the universe and the human mind. For the next 3 days, Leo drew without stopping. He filled 47 pages with blueprints, strange symbols, and math that felt alien. He stopped playing. He barely ate. At night, Emma could hear him whispering in his room, in a language she didn't recognize, scientific terms that had no business being in a toddler as vocabulary. On the 4th day, Emma couldn't take it anymore. She packed the drawings into a folder and called her cousin Jack, who worked as a technician at the local observatory. "Jack, I need you to see this." "It's Leo. Something is wrong." An hour later, Jack was sitting in Emma's living room, his eyes wide with disbelief. His face turned from mild curiosity to pure shock. "Emma, where did he get these?" She shook her head, trembling. "He made them in the last 3 days. He won't stop." Jack held one of the diagrams up to the light. "This is insane. These are orbital trajectory calculations. This here? These are electromagnetic frequency references. And this symbol, Emma, this is advanced scientific notation. Has he been watching documentaries? Did he find someone's laptop?" "Jack, he's 4, Emma snapped, her voice breaking. "He watches dinosaur cartoons. His books are for coloring. We don't even have a computer in this house." Jack took a deep breath and started snapping photos of every page with his phone. "I have to show these to Dr. Miller. She's the head of the Interstellar Objects Department." Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "Interstellar objects? What does that mean?" Jack pointed to the letters on the drawing. "Atlas. It's a comet from deep space, from outside our solar system. We only detected it 2 months ago. Almost nobody knows about it yet. And your son? Emma, your son is drawing details that we haven't even discovered yet. Just then, Leo appeared in the hallway, wearing his astronaut pajamas. His eyes had dark circles that no child should have. "Uncle Jack," he said, his voice sounding exhausted and far too old. "Tell them to hurry. The element is growing. By the time it gets here, it'll be too late." 2 days later, Emma and Leo were standing at the Institute of Astronomy. It was a cold, modern building where the air smelled like coffee and old paper. Dr. Sarah Miller met them in her office. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, but her serious gaze softened when she saw Leo. "Mrs. Ramirez, thank you for coming." "And you must be Leo." The boy nodded shyly, gripping his mother's hand. "Please sit. Jack showed me the drawings. They are extraordinary." Emma's heart was racing. "Doctor, I don't understand what's happening. My son has never been like this." Dr. Miller opened a folder on her desk. Inside were the copies of Leo's sketches, laid out next to high-resolution data sheets from the world's most powerful telescopes. "Emma, 8 weeks ago, we found an object. We named it Atlas. It's only the third confirmed object to enter our system from another star. We've been watching it around the clock, and something about it is wrong." She turned her monitor around. On the screen was a grainy image of a glowing speck with a long, shimmering tail. 3 days ago, our instruments picked up an anomaly, a specific electromagnetic signal pulsing from the center of the comet, a frequency of exactly 9,872 megahertz. Emma felt the room spin. That was the exact number Leo had written on his very first drawing. Dr. Miller nodded slowly. "I know, and that is what has us terrified, because we only detected that signal 72 hours ago. Leo's drawings are dated December 15th. He knew about it 3 months before we did." The silence in the office was absolute, until Leo spoke up. "I didn't know it," he said, staring at the window. "They told me." Dr. Miller leaned forward, her voice gentle. "Who, Leo? Who told you?" The boy looked out at the sky as if he could see through the daylight into the black void beyond. "The ones inside the rock. They're trapped, and the bad thing is hurting them." And then, right there in the office, Leo grabbed a pen from the desk and began to draw again, and this time the world was finally going to listen. The hallways of the Institute were lined with glass-walled offices, each one filled with chalkboards, covered in a chaotic web of equations. Dr. Sarah Miller welcomed them into her private study. She was a woman in her late 50s, wearing sharp, rectangular glasses with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes were piercing and serious, yet they carried a strange maternal warmth. "Mrs. Ramirez, thank you for coming," she said, leaning down slightly. "And you must be Leo." The boy gave a small, shy nod, his tiny fingers gripping his mother's hand as if it were a lifeline. "Please, make yourselves comfortable," Sarah said. "Jack showed me Leo's drawings. To be honest, extraordinary doesn't even begin to cover it." Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs. "Doctor, I'm lost. I don't know what's happening to him. My son, he's never been like this. He's just a little boy." Dr. Miller opened a heavy leather folder on her desk. Inside were the scans of Leo's drawings, laid out side by side with high-resolution data from the world's most powerful telescopes. "Emma, about 8 weeks ago, we detected an interstellar object. We've cataloged it as Atlas. It's only the third confirmed visitor from outside our solar system. We've been studying it every second since, and there is something unsettling about it." She turned her monitor around so Emma could see. The screen showed a glowing, jagged rock with a long, shimmering tail stretching across the blackness. 3 days ago, our instruments picked up a massive anomaly, an electromagnetic pulse screaming out from the comet's core. It was a very specific frequency, 9,872 megahertz. Emma felt the air leave the room. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. That's exactly what Leo wrote. On the very first page, Dr. Miller leaned back, her face pale. I know, and that is what has us completely paralyzed, because we only discovered that frequency 72 hours ago. Leo's drawings are dated back to mid-December. He knew the exact signature of this object 3 months before our billion-dollar satellites did. A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the office. Then, Leo's small voice broke through the tension. I didn't know it, he said, staring out the window at the distant horizon. They told me. Sarah leaned forward, her voice barely a whisper. Who, Leo? Who told you? The boy didn't blink. His eyes seemed to be looking at something far beyond the sky. The ones inside the rock. They're trapped, and the dark thing is hurting them. Before anyone could react, Leo reached across the desk and grabbed a black felt-tip pen. He pulled a fresh sheet of paper toward him and began to draw. His movements were lightning fast, almost frantic, his hand moving with a precision that felt wrong. Emma reached out to stop him, but Sarah caught her arm. No, let him finish. In less than 2 minutes, Leo had produced a breathtakingly complex diagram. It was a cross-section of the comet from an entirely different perspective. In the very center, there was a jagged, dark fracture. And from that crack, he drew vibrating lines representing a terrifying surge of energy. The bad thing is right here, Leo said, tapping the crack with his pen. It's called the dark matter core. It's not from here. It came from where the stars go to die. Dr. Miller's hands were trembling as she reached for the drawing. She didn't say a word. She just grabbed her phone and dialed a number. Dr. Vance? I need you in my office. Now. Drop everything. 5 minutes later, a man in his 40s burst into the room, breathless. This was Dr. Liam Vance, a lead astrophysicist specialized in deep space anomalies. Sarah, what's going on? I was in the middle of... He stopped dead as he saw the drawing on the desk. His face went ghostly white. Where did you get this? Dr. Miller pointed at the 4-year-old sitting in the oversized chair. He just drew it. Right in front of me. Liam sank into a chair, his legs giving out. That's impossible. We just got the high-res data from the orbital sensors an hour ago. They confirmed a structural breach in the comet's nucleus. It looks exactly like this. He pulled out a tablet and swiped to an image. The resemblance was haunting. It was a perfect match. And there's more, Liam whispered. The sensors detected an unknown element leaking from that fissure. It's not on the periodic table. It's a total anomaly. We weren't going to announce it until tomorrow. Emma felt like she was drowning. What does this mean? Is my son sick? Is he having some kind of breakdown? Dr. Miller reached across the desk and took Emma's hand. We don't have an answer for you yet. But what we do know is that Leo is describing things with scientific perfection, things he couldn't have learned anywhere on this planet. She paused, her eyes searching Emma's. This defies every logic we have. Leo interrupted them, his voice calm but heavy with a strange sadness. I'm not sick, Mommy, he said. They picked me because I'm small. They said grown-ups don't know how to listen anymore. But you'll listen, won't you? His eyes welled up with tears. You have to believe me. The dark matter core is going to reach Earth in 47 days. And if we don't help them, everyone is going to be so afraid. In that moment, everyone in the room realized this was no longer a scientific curiosity. This was something much bigger, something that was already beginning to change the world. But you're listening to me, right? You actually hear me? Leo's eyes flooded with tears, his small voice trembling with a weight no child should carry. I need you to believe me. The dark matter core is going to reach Earth in 47 days. And if we don't do something, everyone is going to be so scared. In that moment, the air in the room changed. The scientists didn't see a toddler anymore. They saw a messenger. Within 24 hours, the story of the boy who knew too much spread like a wildfire through the global scientific community. From NASA to the European Space Agency, the world's greatest minds were asking the same frantic question. How could a 4-year-old possess classified, real-time data on an interstellar object? Emma felt like she was drowning in a storm. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters were camping outside their modest home, begging for a photo, a quote, a glimpse of the little prophet. To protect them, Dr. Sarah Miller organized a high-level, off-the-record meeting. Only 6 people were invited. Emma sat in the corner, her knuckles white as she gripped her chair. "It's my son," she told herself. "I have to be here. I have to understand." Dr. Liam Vance stood before a glowing screen, presenting the latest telemetry. The anomaly, this core, as Leo calls it, is emitting a radiation signature unlike anything in our physics books. It's not gamma, it's not beta. It's something else. And the most terrifying part? It's growing. Dr. Maria Flores, a top specialist from MIT, raised her hand, her voice shaky. Growing? What does that even mean in this context? Liam pulled up a 3D simulation. It means the fracture in the comet's nucleus is expanding at an exponential rate. Based on our calculations, by the time Atlas makes its closest approach to Earth, the core will have increased in size by 340%. The room went ice cold. And what happens to us then? Someone whispered. Sarah Miller looked toward the corner where Leo was quietly sketching. "We don't know, but Leo says we have to help. He says the ones who are coming are trapped." A shiver raced down Emma's spine. The ones who are coming. He was talking about life. Alien life. It sounded like a Hollywood script, too absurd to be real, except for the fact that every single impossible thing Leo had said so far had turned out to be 100% true. Dr. Flores knelt beside Leo in the corner of the room. "Leo, can I ask you something? How do you know all this? Who is talking to you?" Leo didn't stop his pencil. He didn't even look up. They don't use words. They use pictures. When I sleep, I see what they see. I feel what they feel. He paused, his pencil hovering over the paper. They're so scared. The core is eating them. That's why they're coming here. They're looking for help. Dr. Flores swallowed hard. "But why you, Leo? Why a little boy?" Leo looked up then, a sad, knowing smile on his face. "Because you grown-ups think too much. You're too afraid to believe in things you can't measure. But kids, we still know how to listen with our hearts." With that, he went back to his drawing. But what he was sketching now made the scientists crowd around him in a panicked hush. It was a map of the entire solar system, with one specific date circled in bright red. May 12th, 2025. Underneath, in shaky, childish handwriting, were the words, "The day everything changes." The next 2 weeks were a blur of chaos. Leo became the eye of an international storm. Some called him a miracle. Others screamed hoax. Child psychologists ran every test imaginable: MRIs, cognitive exams, brain scans. The results were always the same. Leo was a completely normal 4-year-old. No tumors, no brain anomalies, no savant syndrome. Just a boy with impossible knowledge. Emma barely slept. She watched her son transform every night. At exactly 3:17 a.m., without fail, Leo would sit up in bed like a sleepwalker. He would walk to his desk and draw for precisely 43 minutes. Then, he'd crawl back under the covers as if nothing had happened. But the night drawings were different. They were darker, more intricate. They showed the inside of the Comet crystalline caverns, structures that looked like ancient organic technology. And always, in the center, was that black stain of the core, spreading like an infection. "It's eating everything, Mommy," he told her one morning over cereal. "There used to be many of them. Now there are only 3. And they're so tired." Emma stroked his hair, her heart breaking. "Who are they, baby? Can you tell me?" Leo closed his eyes. "Travelers. They came from a long, long way away. They were looking for a safe place to hide but the core followed them. Now they're trapped inside the rock that was supposed to protect them. It was a ghost story from the stars. But then, on February 8th, Leo drew a massive explosion on the tail of the comet. 3 days later, every telescope on Earth confirmed it. A massive, unexplained ejection of material from Atlas. The clock was ticking. The day everything changes was getting closer. And the world was beginning to realize that the little boy in the astronaut pajamas was our only hope of understanding what was coming for us. On February 15th, Leo sat up and described a sudden shift in the comet's path. A week later, the world's orbital sensors confirmed it. Atlas was veering off course, drifting significantly closer to Earth than anyone had predicted. Dr. Liam Vance was forced to call a global press conference. He kept Leo's name out of it, focusing instead on the anomalous element and the unprecedented irregularities of the comet. The media immediately dubbed it the Mystery Comet. Behind closed doors, Dr. Sarah Miller was fighting off a different kind of storm. Government agencies and military intelligence were banging on her door, demanding total access to her data and to the boy. She shut them down with a steel spine. "This isn't a national security threat for the generals," she told them. "This is a moment for science. Leave the child alone." But Emma could feel a much darker tide rising. One night, she found Leo sobbing in his bed, his small body shaking. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked, pulling him into her arms. "Mommy, one of them just went out," Leo whispered, his voice jagged with grief. "I can't feel him anymore. Now there are only 2 left." Emma felt a cold lump form in her throat. Part of her wanted to believe this was just a vivid nightmare, a psychological reaction to the stress, but the raw, haunting pain in Leo's eyes was too real to ignore. It broke her heart. The very next morning, Leo drew something new, a precise set of GPS coordinates. A remote, desolate spot in the middle of the Chihuahua Desert. "This is where it's going to fall," he said, pointing to the map. "A piece of the rock is coming down, and one of them is inside." Sarah Miller didn't hesitate. She organized an emergency expedition. It was a massive gamble. If Leo was wrong, her career and the Institute's reputation would be over. But if he was right, well, no one knew what that would mean for humanity. The teen Emma, Leo, Sarah, Liam, and 2 other top astrophysicists piled into 2 rugged SUVs and drove for hours into the heart of the desert. The landscape was a harsh, beautiful void of sand, cacti, and endless sky. Leo stayed silent the whole way, staring out the window with an expression far too heavy for a 4-year-old. "When exactly will it happen, Leo?" Liam asked quietly. Leo looked down at his toy watch. It didn't actually tell time, but he consulted it as if it were a high-precision chronometer. "In 3 days, at 11:34 p.m., you'll see a green light in the sky. That's the signal." They set up a base camp at the sunset of the 3rd day. Sarah and Liam went to work, installing seismic sensors, radiation detectors, and high-speed cameras. They waited. That night, huddled around a small campfire, Liam asked the question that had been haunting them all. "Leo, if there really is someone on that comet, why are they coming here? What do they want from us?" Leo poked at the embers with a stick. They didn't mean to come. They were running away. The dark matter core destroyed their home. They are the very last ones. They thought the rock would keep them safe, but the core is like a sickness. It doesn't stop. It just eats. Sarah leaned in. "And what exactly is the core, Leo? Where did it come from?" Leo looked up at the stars, his eyes reflecting the Milky Way. "It comes from where there is no light. From the empty places between the galaxies where everything is cold and hollow. It feeds on energy. It feeds on life. That's why it followed them." His explanation sounded like a sci-fi thriller, but the soul-deep sadness in his voice made it feel terrifyingly real. The first 2 days were agonizingly still. The team checked their instruments every hour, but everything was normal. Some of the scientists began to whisper. Had Leo just been lucky before? Was this all a massive, tragic coincidence? But Emma noticed that Leo wasn't playing. He wasn't exploring the sand or looking for lizards like a normal boy. He just sat on a flat rock, staring at the horizon, waiting. Then came the third night. At 11:28 p.m., Leo suddenly stood up. "They're here," he whispered. Everyone froze. The sky was a perfect, cloudless black. And then, at exactly 11:34 p.m., to the very second, a brilliant, neon green streak tore across the firmament. A small but blinding meteorite was screaming through the atmosphere, heading directly toward their position. It hit the ground just over a kilometer from their camp. The impact was a dull thud that made the earth shiver. A plume of dust rose into the moonlight. The seismic sensors went wild. "Go, now!" Sarah shouted. In 5 minutes, they reached the impact site. What they saw took the air from their lungs. It wasn't a typical crater. The rock from the sky was wedged deep in the sand, but it wasn't glowing red. It wasn't smoking. It was ice cold to the touch, emitting a faint, pulsing green light that beat like a slow, steady heart. Liam stepped forward with a Geiger counter. "The readings are strange, but not dangerous. No lethal radiation. It's safe to get closer." Leo walked toward the rock without a trace of fear. Emma tried to grab him, but Sarah held her back. "Wait, let him go." The little boy placed his small hand on the crystalline surface of the fallen star and closed his eyes. Tears began to track through the dust on his cheeks. "The last one is here," Leo sobbed. "But he's so weak." Leo stepped toward the rock, his small silhouette standing brave against the vast darkness of the desert. Emma lunged to pull him back, her motherly instinct screaming danger, but Dr. Sarah Miller caught her arm. "Wait," Sarah whispered, her voice tight with awe. "Let him?" The boy placed his tiny hand on the cold, jagged surface. He closed his eyes, and a moment later, tears began to stream down his dusty cheeks. "The last one is here," he whispered, his voice cracking. "But he's so weak." The meteorite was about 3 feet wide, a chaotic mass of dark stone covered in translucent crystals that caught the beams of their flashlights. Dr. Liam Vance aimed his high-powered torch at the center. His breath hitched. "My God, there's something inside." Visible through a glassy, semi-clear layer was a shape that defied every law of nature. It was small, roughly the size of a clenched fist, a geometric, irregular polyhedron that pulsed with a pale, rhythmic green light. "It's a stasis pod," Leo said, the complex term sounding eerily natural coming from a toddler. "It's what's keeping him alive. But the dark matter core is coming for him. We have to get him out before it finds us." Dr. Maria Flores leaned in, pointing at the surface of the rock. "Look at this. These aren't just cracks." Everyone crowded around. There were markings, mathematical inscriptions etched with impossible precision. Spiraling patterns that repeated in a way that felt like a language. "This isn't a natural formation," Liam whispered, snapping photos with frantic energy. "This was built. This is intelligent design." Emma felt the world as she knew it crumbling. Every logic, every Sunday morning routine, every normal thing was gone. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Leo turned to her, his eyes suddenly bright. "We need to take him somewhere safe. Somewhere with clean energy where he can finally wake up." Sarah Miller didn't hesitate. "We're going back to the Institute. We have a high-security containment lab. It's the only place we can keep this hidden and safe." Using specialized gear, the team extracted the rock. It was surprisingly light, weighing only about 30 pounds. They secured it in an insulated container in the back of the SUV. During the long, silent drive back, Leo didn't let go of his mother's hand. "Mommy, when he wakes up, please don't be scared," he said softly. "He's different from us, but he feels just like we do. He feels pain. He feels fear. And he feels hope. Emma squeezed his hand. How do you know all this, baby? Leo smiled, a genuine, heartbreakingly beautiful smile. Because he showed me. He showed me what his world looked like before the shadow came. It was so beautiful, Mommy. Back at the Institute, the rock was moved to the underground biocontainment lab, a fortress of steel walls and air filtration systems. Sarah and Liam worked for 16 straight hours, fueled by nothing but adrenaline and coffee. They took samples and ran molecular scans. The results were haunting. The crystal contained elements that simply do not exist on Earth. Its structure challenged the very foundation of chemistry. This didn't grow, Liam concluded, staring at the monitors. It was manufactured. It's living technology. Leo entered the lab with Emma, wearing a tiny hazmat suit that was several sizes too big. He looked adorable, but his eyes were ancient. You need to break the outer shell, he said, pointing. But be gentle. If you use too much force, you'll hurt what's inside. How do we do it, Leo? Sarah asked, trusting the boy more than her own degrees at this point. Leo pointed to a microscopic line on the rock's surface. There's a natural fracture here. If you apply heat exactly at this point, the pod will open itself. Liam used a precision laser to warm the spot. 200 degrees. 400, 600. And then a soft click. The crystals began to retract like the petals of a blooming flower. What lay exposed was breathtaking. It wasn't biological in any human sense. It was a hybrid of organic life and crystalline machine. A perfect iridescent sphere the size of an orange. Inside, thin, glowing filaments moved slowly, like liquid light. Is it a machine? Or is it alive? Maria whispered. Leo walked right up to the sphere. It's both. They don't see a difference between life and tools. For them, it's all just energy that thinks. Suddenly, the sphere began to glow with blinding intensity. The filaments inside whipped into a frenzy, and a holographic projection exploded into the room. It showed a magnificent planet with purple oceans and golden skies. There were cities that looked like they were grown from glass, a civilization of light. That was home, Leo said, his voice a mere whisper. But then the image shifted. The beautiful world began to be swallowed by a creeping, ink-like darkness. Buildings collapsed into dust, lights flickered out, and everything was erased by a void of absolute black. The dark matter core. The projection showed thousands of ships fleeing, but the darkness was faster, hunting them down one by one until only one tiny craft remained. It crashed into a comet, and 3 figures crawled into stasis pods as the rock froze around them. The image flickered and died. The lab was silent. Sarah Miller had tears in her eyes. They aren't invaders, she whispered. They're refugees. The survivors of a cosmic genocide. Leo nodded slowly. And the shadow is still looking for them. That's why the comet is heading for Earth. Because the very last one is sitting right here in this room. The hologram flickered, painting the lab in the haunting colors of a dying world. Emma watched as purple oceans were swallowed by an ink-like void. Cities crumbled into dust, and lights flickered out one by one until there was nothing left but absolute, suffocating blackness. The dark matter core, Leo whispered. The projection followed thousands of ships trying to escape, but the darkness was a predator. It hunted them down, reaching them in the deep silence of space until only one tiny craft remained. It crashed into a comet, and 3 figures, the last of their kind, crawled into stasis pods as the rock froze around them. The image faded, leaving the lab in a heavy, ringing silence. Dr. Sarah Miller had tears streaming down her face. They aren't invaders, she whispered. They're refugees. The survivors of a cosmic genocide. Leo nodded, his small face grave. And the shadow is still looking for them. That's why the comet is coming here. Because the last one is with us now. The following days were a whirlwind of frantic preparation. The team worked around the clock with the sphere Leo called Lumi. Through new projections, Lumi revealed the terrifying truth. The core wasn't just a physical element. It was a hollow consciousness. It consumed organized energy and life, turning everything back into chaos. It wasn't just destroying matter. It was erasing memory and information itself. And it was following Lumi's signal straight to Earth. May 12th, 2025. Exactly as Leo had predicted, the comet Atlas reached its closest point to our planet, a mere 2.3 million kilometers away. In cosmic terms, it was a hair's breadth. Every telescope on Earth was aimed at it, and the world saw the same nightmare. The fracture in the comet had opened wide, revealing a pulsing black void that seemed to suck the light out of the sky. Leo stood in the lab, his hand resting on the glowing sphere. "It's time," he said. "We have to send a message. We have to tell the shadow there's nothing left to eat here. We have to tell it Lumi is gone." Sarah frowned, confused. "Lie to it? How?" Dr. Liam's hands caught on. "We can spoof the signal. Create a false broadcast that makes it look like Lumi's life force has dissipated. But we need Lumi's help to make it believable." Leo translated the plan. As his tiny hands touched the sphere, Lumi began to glow with a blinding, iridescent light. A complex symbol appeared in the era-specific wave pattern. "This is the death song of his people," Leo said softly. "If the shadow hears this, it will think the hunt is over." For 14 grueling hours, they built a hybrid transmitter, blending human tech with Lumi's alien designs. At 11 p.m. on May 12th, they hit the switch. The signal screamed into the void, heading straight for the heart of the comet. The minutes felt like years. Then the telemetry changed. Around the world, astronomers gasped. The comet was veering. Sensing no more prey, the dark matter core lost interest in Earth. Atlas began to drift away, carrying the darkness back into the freezing depths of the space from which it came. The lab erupted. Scientists were cheering, crying, and hugging. Sarah hugged Emma so hard she couldn't breathe. Liam lifted Leo into the air, shouting, "We did it! We saved the world!" But Leo wasn't cheering. He was sobbing. "What is it, baby?" Emma asked, kneeling beside him. Leo pointed to the sphere, the signal. It had to be real. Lumi had to turn off his light to make the shadow believe it. He gave himself up. The sphere was dark. The glowing filaments inside were frozen, cold and lifeless. Lumi had given his life to save a planet he had never seen and a species he had only just met. 3 months later, Leo is just a boy again. He plays with his toy cars, watches cartoons, and sleeps soundly through the night. He doesn't draw complex equations anymore, and he hasn't woken up at 3:17 a.m. once. But the world is different. Scientists are studying what Lumi left behind, uncovering a new physics that will eventually take humanity to the stars. Lumi's sphere remains in the Institute, preserved as a monument, a reminder that we are not alone, and that sacrifice can come from the most unexpected corners of the universe. Sometimes, Leo visits the monument. He puts his hand against the glass and whispers, "Thank you for picking me. Thank you for trusting us." And somewhere in the infinite deep, the comet Atlas continues its lonely journey, carrying a shadow and the echo of a lost world. But it also carries a message that even across light years, when the universe is in danger, we can find a way to help each other. Because in this vast cosmos, we are all just travelers looking for a place to call home.